Shalom Aleichem once again, and welcome. Hopefully it probably will be the last video for this series. So I would like to take what we have spoken about. We've spoken about some ideas from a more cognitive perspective, psychological perspective. We've shown some makoros from our beautiful, wonderful Torah. And I'd like to end off by sharing some practices. Now, everything I'm sharing with you now are practices that I do. And they're practices that we do in our chaburas. So I like the philosophy of trial and error, or trial and success, and knowing for myself what works, what doesn't work. So anything I'm sharing with you, I've done multiple times and I still do. And there are several other groups of individuals who do this as well. And what I can lovingly and respectfully report is that what I'm going to share with you hopefully is very, very powerful. Now you have to figure out what works for you. I'm going to share, and I'm not preaching, I'm not telling you what to do. You have to figure out in your life how to cultivate what we are speaking about, how to cultivate, to upgrade your gratitude, your attitude of gratitude, because as we said, it changes your neurology. It changes your way of being from the inside out. It makes you more joyful, it calms you, it gives you more hope, and so much more. So the first thing I wanted to share is, to the best of your ability, some sort of journaling. Some sort of journaling. Now, journaling can be done just taking a good old pencil and paper, and you could write for yourself 3 to 5 elements in your life that you appreciate. So we could change them out every day. We can have 3 of the same and 2 different ones if we're doing 5. But 5 elements, 5 points of gratitude for that day. And if you want to be more creative, you can have 5 points of gratitude for yourself, 5 points of gratitude for maybe a spouse, a child, 5 points of gratitude for the place where you live, the work that you live. So you could break it down. Where do you need in your life to upgrade appreciation? Where in your life do you need to upgrade awareness? So in those areas, take a pencil and paper, and you could write a list of 5 things each and every day, and just notice what happens to you. If that's too much, for example, you could just take your phone, you could take a recording device. Or today you have apps that they will dictate. You can record and dictate 5 elements of gratitude. It could take 30 seconds to do. It really doesn't necessarily take long. So that's one practice. Do it for 10 days. See what happens. Another practice, coming from a slightly different angle, is more of a meditative practice. And that is stop, think, and step into appreciation. Stop, think, and step into gratitude. This is as well something so important, and this is something which can really deeply enhance our way of being. So what that looks like is as following. What that looks like is that you just stop, take a breath, you could put a smile on your face, and you could think about something you want to be thankful for, something you want to appreciate, and allow those feelings to come up within you. Allow those feelings to come up within you. And just be with that for a few moments. And then you could do 2 things. Either you can imagine once you have come up with that particular something and you're really feeling it, you can imagine you don't have it anymore for a few moments. So you imagine you don't have it anymore for a few moments. And what does that feel like? And then you bring back what you are appreciative for. And then when you're ready, you say, thank you. Toda Rabba, I appreciate Hakara Satov. So again, 1 is just stop and just think about one thing you want to appreciate. Step into it, feel it, feel it. Then imagine for a moment you don't have it anymore and what that feels like. Then bring it back that you do have it now. And when you're ready, Shkayach, thank you. Really experience what it is to have it and experience what it is not to have it. Bring it back so you can appreciate even more now, and then you say thank you. I find this really powerful. It's so powerful. Say, for example, I'm fed up with something. So all I have to do is work for a couple of moments on 3 or 4 things, even that particular thing. Say, for example, I don't know, something is triggering me. So I could just stop, I can catch myself, I can just really be appreciative of it by imagining what happens if I didn't have it. What sort of life would I, have? So as we mentioned, a person, for example, this actually happened a couple of days ago, a person has a car and their car broke down. And they were really fed up. Maybe I should just get rid of the car. And I said, you're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking clearly. Let's stop. Just step into the fact that you have the car and just think about that, be with that. Now imagine you didn't have it and you saw the change in their face. Oh yeah, you're right. It's worth it. It's not too crazy to fix up the car. And then now bring back that you have a working vehicle. And you've had this working vehicle for already 6 years, and it's been really good, and it's really helped you. Like, just step into that appreciation, and then say thank you. So that's a very powerful exercise. There's another nukuda as well, which is learning to appreciate. Say, for example, you're working with somebody else, learning to appreciate where that person is coming from. So, for example, that can take form as following. Say person A is having an issue with person B. So sometimes we get caught up in our side. We get caught up in our ego side of how things should be, how things are. And sometimes we forget the other person. So an exercise that I find so helpful, which is to do with the awareness, the appreciation, and maybe the gratitude as well, but definitely the appreciation side of what we've been speaking about, is starting off by saying, just as I want to be loved, they want to be loved. Just as I want to be loved, you want to be loved. Just as I want to be seen and heard, you want to be seen and heard. Just as I want to be respected, you want to be respected. Just as I want to be understood, you want to be understood. So this ability to step in, to realize we really all want the same things. And sometimes when we are not conscious, when we lose our consciousness, when the ego takes over the motherboard, so to speak, we say things, we do things that we don't particularly want to be doing. So that's stage one. Stage one is just as I want to be loved, you want to be loved. Just as I want to be respected, you want to be respected. Just as I want to be seen and heard, you want to be seen and heard. Just as I want to be understood, you want to be understood. It switches on the compassion. Then the other point is just to think about, make up, pretend why that person has been led to do what they've done. So say, for example, a person's having a little bit of a tension full time, an argument with somebody, or a person's annoyed at you for a particular something. Maybe, you did something wrong, you messed up, okay. But how many times a person has had a very hard day? How many times a person has had a very hard day and it just flooded out on you? It's not necessarily your fault. It's just like they sicked up on you all that negative energy. Now, you very easily could jump in and get into like, bang, bang, you're fighting. Or you can say, what do you think has happened for that person to do that? That's not normally what they do. So again, this idea, so far we've said journaling, we've said stop, think, appreciate that particular thing, then take it away and then replace it, bring it back and then say thank you. When you're working with somebody, start off just by appreciating, what you value, they usually value as well, and think about what may have appreciate the journey that brought them to this particular point where they've done something that may not be so good, and maybe you could do something about it. We'll share one more, which is a bechin of a yichud. It's what we call a yichud. The name Elokim, when, say for example, there's a challenge. The name Elokim, if you take, so not the first and last letter, the 3 middle letters of the Shem Elokim, it's the gematria of 84. 5. The gematria, 45, Mem Hey, the gematria of 45. 45 is the gematria of Hashem's name for Rachamim. So it's Shem Havaya B'milui Alfin, which is the name for Rachamim. So in the Din, which is the name Elokim, Elokim is the name of Din. So in the name Elokim, the middle 3 letters are the gematria of the name of Hashem for Rachamim. So you can write it out on a piece of paper, Elokim, and then you take the middle letters and you could write, the gematria underneath, which is 45, which is Shem Ma, and this is Havai B'milui Alfin. Those who understand. Those who don't, you don't have to. It's okay. We could learn about it at another time as well. And when there's a challenge, you can imagine this name. And you could appreciate that everything, as we know, Rabbi Akiva says, Gamzu L'Teva, and as Rabbi says, Hakol L'Teva, there's a deep sod. There's a deep sod that's going on here. And there's a lesson to be learned. Someone once said, which is a beautiful, beautiful nakuda, that in school, we learn lessons and then have tests. When we leave school, we have tests and then we learn the lesson. So it's a big nakuda. So when we're caught up in ourselves, it's much more difficult to go through the test and to learn the lesson. But when we are appreciative that everything always comes from chesed, everything is always from rachamim. So this name, when there's a challenge, I stop, I meditate on the name Elokim, Aleph Lamed, Elokim, and then I see the 3 middle letters, and then I see it's gematria Ma, which is the Shem of Hashem for Rachamim, Havai B'milui Alfim, which is Shem Rachamim, and it just reminds me everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's a good way to be mamtik the dinim as well. So here we have a couple of different exercises. You experiment, you experience. We could do so much more, but already it may be overwhelming. So we've got the journaling, either writing or recording. We've got stop, think, step into appreciation. We've got appreciating the other person, where they're coming from, appreciating the other person. We've got a yichud, Shem Elokim. And okay, so I just want to end off by saying as following. What's now and what is next is always better than what was. Why? Because we can choose to always be growing. We can choose to always be growing. So again, what's now and what's next is always better than what is. Why? Because we can always choose in the next moment. How am I going to relate to the next moment? How am I going to react to the next moment? And this is something ever so important to think about. It's to do with appreciation. It's to do with gratitude. And to remember that we should be fully fledged conscious beings of gratitude. Fully fledged conscious beings of appreciation. Recognizing you and I, all of us, we have so much. Let's open it up, this superpower of gratitude, Be'ezras Hashem. Wishing you much bracha, mazel and hatzlacha, and mamash, we should all go from strength to strength. And thank you. I appreciate you all. Kol tov.